Let's talk about this subject of unfair treatment. God actually says that we set ourselves up for a blessing when we bless those who have unfairly treated us. Let's talk about this. How can you do that? How can you have that kind of mindset when you've been unfairly treated? How can you bless, genuinely bless?
And actually, it's not just unfair. It's bless those who curse you. Yeah. Like unfair just sounds like, wait, that wasn't a fair game of tic-tac-toe. Yeah. Cursing sounds like aggression. That's excellent. This is not teach you. This is real life. Yeah. So,
well, not to put myself in the mom bubble that I live in, but for me, I have had to walk through some forgiveness, specifically with our 5-year-old Sophia, who she's 6 now. It's the new day. She is 6. She was 5 at the time. I'm believing we're done with it.
I heard something about this, and I went, whoa.
Yeah, she's just really interesting in the sense that she can either be so helpful beyond her years or so difficult below her years. And God showed me, like, you're offended with Sophia. Like, wow. I'm offended with my child. And talk about unfair treatment. You know, you give your all to these tiny humans that look like you, and they just act crazy. And of course, it's growth, and it's really a beautiful image of our relationship with God.
Yeah, that's well put.
But that's kind of a whole nother series. And I realized it was the expectations, because when she was going above and beyond, I decided that's who you are. That's her normal. And that's your normal. Like, that's where you should stay. And so my own expectations put me in a place where I felt hurt to a degree that I could have avoided had I really searched my heart, in the sense of, what am I expecting that's off here?
Yeah. In some ways, you lost sight of the fact that she's 5 years old.
Exactly. In a lot of ways, I lost sight of that.
And I think that's the key. It's perspective.
Yeah.
And I know in my life, when I've been unfairly treated, whether it be a leader or a friend, when I respond in a way that blesses them, I see God do amazing things in my character. So God is using those opportunities to set me up, as you say, set us up for a blessing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what I love about God. You see that redemptive thread in any challenge we go through. And James says, count it all joy when you go through various trials, meaning there's going to be a lot of them, and they're going to take on many different forms. Yeah. And so that includes being unfairly treated. And then there's this whole idea of perfection in there. And the Greek word teleos, what it means is this perfection that only comes through a process. And so when I see my life and I see these instances where I'm unfairly treated, I just see God perfecting me, using the weaknesses, the immaturities, the shortcomings of the people around me to do a perfect work in me.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
And it really is a gift.
It is a gift.
But it's about choosing to see it as a gift.
You know, in the book, I do share how people have been physically whether it's material or relationships or promotions, you know, but really the greatest blessing is greater character. What's more valuable than your character?
Because your character will eventually shape your circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, a good name is to be chosen above all riches. So, you know, even though I do like sharing these testimonies to show the tangible blessing that God will give, I want every one of us to remember that your character being developed is, God is more concerned about that than anything, being His child. I know as parents, when I watch here's 2 of our sons sitting here, you know, a spiritual son, a daughter who's a daughter. I hate saying daughter-in-law.
But it'd be weird if she wasn't daughter-in-law.
It would be weird.
Okay. It's very unfair.
But you know, I'm beginning to understand when John the Apostle said, my greatest joy is to see my children walk in the truth. I never really got that until I hit about 55. And that, you know, I'm sitting, I got to tell you, as I'm sitting here listening to you guys, joy is just flowing in me, listening to the wisdom that's coming from you all. It's just amazing. So I was your unfair treatment, probably greatest vessel in your life, Addison. Hey, I was a ridiculous dad.
So let me share something though. So let's flip this on its head.
Okay.
There's two sides to unfair treatment. There's the victim side, hey, I was unfairly treated. And then there's the other side, which is, oh shoot, I unfairly treated this person. Yeah, sure. And one thing that I admire about you, I love about you, and that I want to also model in my own life is this whole idea of humility. As a father, you would come to me, as the head of the household, you would come to me and apologize. And be like, son, I was wrong. I made a mistake. You didn't just try to default to your position, like I can do whatever I want. I'm the leader. You just need to get past this. You need to work through it. You very much so came to us in humility and said, boys, I was wrong. I was too hard on you. I got out of line, whatever it might be. You would come to us and you would model humility. And that opened the door for us to learn about forgiveness. Yeah. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why, as a 30-year-old now, I really don't have a hard time forgiving people. Yeah. Because I saw that modeled so well by both of you.
Well, that's so important because Frederick Douglass has this quote, and it says, it's easier to train children than it is to repair broken men. Yes. And that's why it's so important as parents that we explain the why behind forgiveness, that we explain to them, like, what it does to them internally. And so, it's so humbling to be able to admit to your child when you've wronged. And I've been in that situation where
sometimes
I've held the fence towards Dominic and he's done something incorrectly, and I've had to, maybe I talked to him just a little too sternly in that interaction, and I've had to go back to him and say, hey, you know what Daddy said was correct, but the way that I said it to you was incorrect. I shouldn't have raised my voice. But this doing something in him, he's watching me take accountability for my actions, and so I hope that when he finds himself in a similar situation, then he'll take ownership of that.
And I love the fact that being 57 this year, I can actually look at my life and know that I've actually learned more from my enemies and from my struggles than I've ever learned from my friends and my good times. And the friendships, that might be who I want to be with, but my enemies locate really quick who I don't want to be, and they look at my weak areas. And so unfair treatment can be this amazing opportunity for you to learn who you really are, because it's not who you are in the perfect times, it's who you are when you have a conflict that locates your faith. And that's that whole James, count it pure joy, count it, not mixed with any sorrow. I don't like that. I don't like it when I'm ambushed, but when I'm ambushed and I have no way of escaping, then I have to come to my knees and say, God, show me what's going on in my life. And so unfair treatment can really be a gift. And so it's just perspective on how we choose to look at it. And I know the same thing. I would tell my boys, okay, God spanks mommy. And they're like, God spanks mommy. I'm like, yes, God spanked. He came to your room. No, he didn't really come to my room. But like when I mishandled the boys, I would have to tell them, listen, I was in my room last night and God told me that I was way too grumpy, that I was way too harsh, that I shouldn't have spanked and I shouldn't have yelled, and will you forgive me? And my boys understood that we were all answerable to God. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how unfair people are to me. If I understand I'm answerable to God, then I know that I will be justly treated. Not fair, but justly treated.
Wow. So. Your comment about the people who have caused greatest growth are not my friends that I want to be around with. Immediately, I remembered the conference that I did in 2001. I think it was 2000 or 2001 in Europe. It was a big church, big conference. And I remember over the next several months hearing from 3 different continents.
I remember that. Yeah.
John Bevere beats up the sheep.
Bevere.
I like severe Bevere.
That would have been okay, but and I remember I was devastated.
Yeah.
I mean, and these were huge ministries, churches that were about ready to invite me. It circled the globe. They were about ready to invite me, and they wouldn't have me now. And I remember it drove me to pray like I've never, ever prayed before, that God would fill my heart with compassion. And I remember about 3 years later being at Claude's church up in Montreal, Canada. I had been there many times in the 90s, and I hadn't been there for 5 years. And he, after the services, he just took me to a restaurant. He said, John, I just have to say something to you. I said, what? He said, your message it's not compromised. It's the exact message you've always preached. He said, but it's so wrapped with compassion and love. And I realized right then how great of a friend that guy was to me. Now I
you've
sat
actually
down
come
with
full
him.
circle with him.
Yeah, full circle. He and I are really close today.
Yeah.
But I said to him, hey, I heard this from 3 different continents. Why didn't you come back to me? But I realized that situation ended up being the greatest blessing for my life. So well put. So well put.
Arden was never unfairly treated, though.
No, never. I was the youngest, so I never had any unfair treatment.
No, but I think I love what you said about the perspective, because we like to sing about overcoming. But in order to sing about overcoming, we actually have to overcome something. And so going into the mindset, like when we go to the gym, I know that my muscles are going to be stressed to the max. I know that I'm going to be put in situations that I probably don't have the natural capability to be able to push through. But somehow I will my way through that, and my friends cheering me on and supporting me. And so if we want to be able to grow and mature as believers, we have to be able to look at those conflicts as an opportunity for growth. This is the only way that I'm going to be able to grow. In a little contained, sphere of just like perfect conditions, we're never going to grow. But we need that, like in a tree, when the storms come, the roots go deeper, it strengthens the base, it produces more fruit. So just having that mindset going into that will shape the way that you look at it.
And I like the idea that it starts with us. It's like we're unfair treated, and we can say, oh, well, I'm not going to do something until that person does something. But it's like, no. The work begins in you. And I remember when I recently went to India, I had an experience that I was very poorly mistreated. And
I, as a dad, was so angry. I'll never forget this.
I remember I was very poorly treated in India. And I remember I was like, God, you had me come across the world, and I have just been treated terribly. I said, this is not what you wanted. And I really had to wrestle. And I remember I couldn't sleep on that trip. And I remember I called you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, Dad, I don't know what's going on. I was like, I can't believe God brought me here. I can't believe that He put me in this situation. And you told me, you said, Arden, it's an opportunity. And He said, there's something that you can do. And He said, you can forgive. He said, you can hold this against you. You can forgive these people. And you said, I know there's a reason why you are still there. And He said, God can bring a miracle. And I remember as I said, okay, God, I'm all about what you brought me here. And I'm not going to hold an offense against these people. I'm not going to say, oh, they did this to me wrong. I'm just going to say, I'm going to do what you brought me here. I'm going to preach the gospel to these people. Right. I'm going to give away these books, and I'm going to watch as you do something. And I remember within 2 days, we were able to set up a distribution of books for close to 500 pastors and leaders. And being at that meeting was the most life-changing experience I think I've ever had, of hearing the pastors' testimonies and the things that have come there.
You FaceTimed me, and I could hear the love in your voice as you introduced me to them.
Yeah, but I realized that if it didn't start with me, of saying, you know what, hey, I could be bitter. I flew halfway across the world just for this. If it didn't just start with me saying, you know what, this is way further, way beyond me, way bigger than me. This is any offense that I could hold on to. Then I don't think God would have created this opportunity for me to be able to go and give these books away and speak into pastors' lives.
It's just so important that we realize, here's the bottom line. When we're unfairly treated, God is setting us up to get a blessing. So I just hope every one of you will remember that. Anytime, any place, somebody lies about you, somebody mistreats you, somebody takes from you, you just say inside immediately, God has just set me up to get blessed. And it's guaranteed if you handle it correctly. So just make sure you go over this chapter, listen to this lesson a few times, and make sure that you handle it the way Jesus handled it when He was unfairly treated. Because Peter said He is our clear example.